Welcome. Let's take a look at skill shorting and what that is and how to go about deciding which skills to level in preference on your players. This isn't a new topic for most people. Probably a lot of people familiar with it, but I do see a lot of questions on it. So the concept is simply when you have a limited pool of points to level your skills with, where are you going to distribute those? As most of us know, when we put a new skill set on a card by using a skill reset ticket or a skill change ticket or a premium skill change ticket, you're going to end up with initial levels on those skills. And most of us have learned to do the internal math to figure out what that's going to max out. But if you're less familiar with that, this table will show you that on the left hand side, if you land with 3 skills all at level 3, you know that's going to be a max set. But if you were to land with 3 skills, one of which was a 3, the others were level 1 and level 1, which would be a total of 4 points off max. The max you're going to be able to get out of that, you're typically going to see people put 1 point in their legend skill, take another one up to 8 max, and then a 7 for the final skill, or they may choose to max out the legend, put a gold skill at 8, and then the remaining skill at 2. So these are the typical distributions you'd see for the various levels. But like I mentioned, most people have done this in their head already, but if you're not as familiar, you can check this table.
Okay, we're going to wing this video by fumbling around in the game and jumping over to the website. So forgive me, I hate doing video editing, so this is just going to be a free-for-all session. We're going to wing this. And so the first thing I want to do to start this off is point to a tool that I referred to in one of my earlier videos. This is the 9 Innings Companion. It's become pretty much the key go-to tool for players of this game, and got to appreciate the author for the tool. I would suggest, if you use it a lot, maybe dropping him $1 a few through his Patreon. But aside from this, the key thing in enabling us to choose how to short skills is going to be, it's kind of awkward to navigate it to it, but you got to go to player registry, you go down to skills. Now, because often with so many skills being based off of just adjustments to your ratings or stats, the comparisons actually become fairly easy when we look at losing 1 point off of bad ball hitter in favor of choosing a gold skill and putting it at a level 8. It just becomes uh, a matter of comparing numbers, and we'll take a look at that in just a second. But well, heck, no, let me just go ahead and jump over. If I've done it, and I had to run through this calculation myself when I was analyzing how I wanted to handle. Let's see, was it Clemens? I think it was Clemens. We go to Clemens, take a look at him, we take a look at his skills, and we're going to say yes. In this situation, the question becomes, am I shorting slow starter and taking that down to a 5 and putting dominant picture up to a 7? Or do I do it in the way that I favored it right here? And let me show you how I arrived at that decision. So we know that the first decision is slow starter between 5 and 6. So we go over here and we find slow starter. We can either scroll to it on pages, or we can go to search for it, search for slow starter. And we can see that between levels 5 and 6, we get a 2-point difference. Okay. Now, in addition to this, and this is where I need to walk you through the site, we can look at additional details. And the nice thing that this guy's done is he's actually translated it from the poorly translated versions into actual stuff that English speakers will be able to understand better. And we'll point to another case of this in just a second. Anyways, so we know it affects 3 different stats. We're going to get those at +2 difference between level 5 and level 6. But not shown on this table, additional 8 pitches +2 for every 8 pitches to location and velocity up to a maximum of 10 on top of the stats in the table. Notice it says up to a maximum of 10, regardless of what your level is. So it could be a level 2 slow starter. You would still get up to 10 on each stat. This is a key thing to note. We're not limited by the fact that we are at 5, which is a bad assumption that I made when I made this choice. Now, we look at let's see, owner trigger. What this means is in some cases you're going to get additional bonuses, and the quote trigger is going to vary from skill to skill. In this particular case, it tells you the trigger condition is a legend. On a legend player, you see actually more bonuses. Let's see. In this case, I'm not actually seeing what the legend bonus is on this one because you are still getting those bonuses here. So, oh, sorry. Nope. Here we go. Here's the difference. On a legend skill, you're getting additional +2 on everything. So it's just slightly higher on the legend. Okay, that's the difference there. So keep in mind triggers. We'll take a look at those in just a second. So what we just learned here is I get, by level 6, I get +2 here. And then I also get the additional up to 10 bonus, not dictated by what level here. So the overall difference is +2 on all three of these stats, as compared to dominant pitcher. The difference is going to be between level 5 and 7, where the difference there is 5 points on each of these. And in this case, the owner trigger is if you have met these conditions, which on this card we have not met those conditions because I am focusing on finesse pitcher. And so that one's going to be activated, and I did not meet the trigger for this one, so we will not get this bonus. We are looking at this bonus instead. So we are looking at a difference of 5 points to 2 stats. So this overall, if you add those together, 10 points versus slow starter, which we saw was a total of 2 across 3, which is 6. It's a difference of overall of 4. Now, my bad analysis was I thought we were actually only going to get +8 by if I had selected slow starter at level 5. I thought I was going to be limited to 8 on my bonus due to extra pitches, which is not true. So then it just boils down to the 6 versus 10. And I personally value location higher than any other pitching stat, and have not seen as much value from boosting velocity and fastball, which is what you would get off of dominant pitcher, so I chose to go this route. That said, the key thing that you must do when analyzing these things is do an A-B comparison, which means run it for probably at least 2 weeks in ranked and see what your stats are, then flip it and go with slow starter at 5 and these two maxed out, and see if you see any notable difference in results. I'm not actually honestly expecting to, but next week I will run that. I'm getting about the results I expected out of this pitcher. In fact, heck, we'll go ahead and take a look. Keep in mind when I show you this, I'm nerfing boss currently, which means I'm seeing higher impact to my ERA on my pitchers than I do when I'm nerfing charisma, by an order of roughly about half of an ERA point. So if we look at the ERA on Clemens, you can see he's currently running 3.37, so he'd be in the 2s if I were nerfing charisma. So that performance for me is actually acceptable. As you can see, Sale is my best. He is typically in the 2 range, and Pedro is brand new, and he's been in the 2 range as well for me. So at 3.37, it's not optimal, but it's not terrible either. Okay, now let's move on to something else. When we start to venture outside of the realm of just normal skills that have a basic stat bonuses, then things get a little bit stickier to compare. We enter into a lot more gray area and a lot more judgment calls. The next most important thing to recognize, probably, or next factor to consider, would be conditional activation of skills. In cases like Spotlight, for example, which gets activated only tied or losing after the 6, you need to consider, okay, this is something that I'm not going to see the benefit from all the time. And then in this particular case, I'm choosing to short Chance Maker versus either Charisma Spotlight or whatever. Obviously, Charisma I've maxed out, so that wouldn't be the choice. I'd either be shorting Spotlight or Chance Maker. And the judgment call here is, are the situations in which Chance Maker is actually active versus Spotlight, do they hold more value? What's more value to me? The ability to potentially score more in late inning situations, or the situation of getting on base and promoting my other batters? So that one's conditional upon actually getting on base, whereas Spotlight is you're simply losing in the late innings of the game. So is it even losing? Tied or losing? Yes, it is. Tied or losing late in the game. Highly valuable, as we all know. We need to turn a game around. So this one seemed fairly straightforward. Go ahead and choose Chance Maker. Let's see if there are any other ones to consider. Here's another one. Bad Ball Hitter. We're choosing to short this one. The other factor to consider is when you are shorting a gold skill, you are effectively reducing it from a 7 down to a 5. Because technically you start off, you're taking it, it naturally goes to 6. That's how high you can raise it. If you choose to short it, it's taking it down to 5. But as we know, when you've used your special training, that 6th level skill actually becomes a 7. So you are effectively shorting it from 7 down to 5. When you are dealing with a skill set, I think I have one here. Here we go. In this particular case, I'd have 2 points short of my ability to take this to max skill set of 6, 7, and 8. So when I'm choosing to short prediction, I am actually only choosing to reduce it from potentially either a 5 down to a 4 or a 7 down to a 4. If I went with the 7, if I took the prediction up to 6, I'd be sacrificing 2 points off of batter's insight. So as you can see, as you get less and less points to deal with, your impact upon a skill becomes larger and larger. In this case, I felt like the impact on batter's insight was significantly more than the benefit that I was going to receive from prediction. Ultimately, to be able to make these types of cost-benefit analysis, you have to have an understanding of where the skills stack up against each other so you can effectively know which ones are offer more value when they're not shorted than other ones. And this is where taking a look at how other people are using the skills and from their experiences you can leverage. And my previous video showing what the current rankings of skills are can be used to help you assist you. And ultimately there is some judgment call in how people value things. I indicated earlier that I highly value location as a stat on a pitcher, whereas other people will value velocity a lot more, and their decision would have been in the scenario with Clemens once again bouncing back to him. They would have chosen, without a doubt, to take dominant to 7 and short slow starter. But as I mentioned, I value location, and hence I went with that decision. So when it comes down to it, there may be some skills that you value a little bit more. You're going to have to make your own judgment call based off of that. But do use the rankings and what other people are finding from their experience with the skills that they're choosing. We know, for example, quite well that on the batter side of things, for example, I don't think it's on him. Where do I have it? Barrel It Up has proven to be a very strong skill. So this is a no-brainer for me not to short Barrel It Up over Bad Ball Hitter. In fact, there's a good question as to whether or not I am, if I should choose Barrel It Up over Spotlight, Spotlight being more conditional. It's probably worth me doing an A/B test on this one and actually taking Barrel It Up to 8 to see how that performs. I'm sure other people have done so. Most people would choose to max out Spotlight as I have done here. So I know that's a lot to factor in. I know there's a lot of gray area still from all this, but I hope the idea of using the 9 innings companion to focus in on what the actual stat bonuses are to make your comparisons is of value to you. The other thing I would note is that be very careful and do use this resource extensively, because there are conditions where people will take a look at the surface value. If anything, actually, I'm going to offer you is don't look at the name of the skill and assume that is all there is to it. For example, let's see. Here's a great example of this. If we look at Bullpen Day, your natural inclination, if you were to land this on a starter, is to think this is not worth it on a starter, right? But if you look, it says it increases these, all but stamina, which is a little bit of a loss, but anyways, increases these 4 stats. It doesn't say increases these stats for relief pitchers only. It simply says increases that, and then it says for relief pitchers, the effect is stronger. So this additional bonus is only available for relief pitchers. It's probably going to show up here under trigger. Nope, that's just the legend increased. Anyways, so you are still getting plus 12 on a starter for these things. It's not garbage. Plus 12 is a very solid boost to your skill. And the additional bump is for relievers and closers after 3 innings. And he's indicating here that he's not showing it in here. But anyways, so don't make a judgment call purely off of the title of the skill. It doesn't mean everything. Let me see. I'm pretty sure there was another example of that. Let me see if I can get it real quick. The other. Okay, this is the other one that is worth pointing out. Fine. Let's see. Control measure cooperative. Well, there it is. You didn't do a partial string match on this. That's kind of fun. Anyways, cooperative pitching. For the longest time, I actually misunderstood this skill due to the very poor wording in the English translation on the skill. It leaves you wondering whether or not it applies to only starters or only relievers. But fortunately, our friend here has done all the details research for us and determined that you actually get the same bonus on any pitcher. The difference comes in is when you are what bonus it passes on to a teammate. And all that simply means is, if you read the details here, it says for the next pitcher. So a middle reliever could still have a next pitcher. I would say probably the only time you would want to get away from this would be on a closer. I would not have this on my closer, but any other pitcher, this is a completely valid skill. So, and once again, plus 12 is solid. I have this on my Cy Young. Stacking that with Ace, cooperative pitching and Ace gives me a very strong stat bonus to all my stats, and consequently, he performs pretty well. He's not the best, but he's solid. He's solid as a starter, and I've been running him this way for quite a while. So, point being, oops, don't discount a skill purely on its name. Look into what it does before you make the ultimate decision whether or not to use it.
So thanks for watching, everybody, and let me know if you have any feedback. Appreciate some feedback on this. If I've missed anything, I usually do. I'm sorry that it got a little bit rambly. I do tend to be a little bit wordy at times, but hopefully there's been some value derived. Thanks, and until next time.